All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Belvedere City Council Committee of the Whole meeting of June 22nd, 2026. If the clerk will help me with a roll call, please.
Albertini?
Here.
Brereton?
Here.
Fleury absent. Frank?
Here.
Gramkowski?
Here.
Hoynes?
Here.
McGee?
Here.
Montalbano?
Here.
Peterson?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
9 present.
All right, thank you. And under public comment, of course, we have our Heritage Days celebration planned for this Friday and Saturday downtown with a makeup rain day on Sunday. I don't think it's going to rain. Anybody better forecaster? Gina? I know you're a better forecaster because you got all this work in it, so thank you. If anybody wants to ride on the float, let us know ahead of time, and we'll certainly make those arrangements if you guys want to. Of course, it's a 250th celebration. We'll never see another one, so anybody who wants to ride with the city on our float or walk, if you want to walk with me, I'd certainly love to have you. I do want to thank the festival sponsors, Midwest Refrigerated Services, and then the event sponsors, UW Health, Stellantis, Belvedere Cosmos Charities, Boone County Arts Council, First Northern Credit Union, Beverly Materials, Super Aggregates, Hamblock Ford, and Kelly Williamson, and also contributing sponsors, CES Incorporated, ComEd, Galano Trucking, J&D Oil, Arc Design Resources, Walmart, First National Bank of Omaha, and Kunis Belvedere and LBS Mobile Mart. So thank you to all of those who contributed to make this a memorable, I'm sure it will be, event. And we do not have anybody registered for public comment. We have nothing on the first page with public forum. Skipping to the second page, public safety unfinished business, we have none. Police Department update. Chief Woody, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you very much. My update this month will be a staffing report. We currently have 3 open positions to fill, 2 officers on long-term leave. We have 3 officers in the FTO program, steps 1 through 4, and 1 at Basic Academy at Sauk Valley, scheduled to graduate in August. We have a Fire and Police Commission meeting this Thursday where we'll present the psychological and medical examinations of an entry-level applicant. If approved, he'll be appointed as a probationary Belvedere police officer. We will be presenting 4 entry-level polygraphs, and the Fire and Police Commission will be conducting interviews of those who pass. If they successfully pass both examinations, they'll be offered conditional offers of employment, authorized to go to the psychological and medical portions of the application process. And we currently have 5 spots requested for Basic Academy at Sauk Valley and PTI for August. That concludes my report for this evening, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Chest pain calls, 3 strokes, 3 seizures, 2 overdoses, and then you check those were not illicit drug overdoses. 17 psychological, 11 altered mental status. We had 5 vehicle accidents, 1 air medical transport, which was just an assist to Belvedere Suites for lending out, not for them. Fire-related calls, we had 12 calls, 1 structure fire, 3 confirmed cooking appliance fires, and 2 passenger vehicle fires. We had about 14 hazardous materials incidents, which included gas leaks and odor investigations. 3 power lines down, arcing and malfunction calls, and 3 smoke investigations. And public service accounted for a large majority of the 41 total responses, including 21 lift assist and 16 citizen assists. And then on the EMS transport side, out of those 200 calls that were EMS calls, there was 167 total transports, which averages out to about 5.6 transports per day. Also means that the transport occurred about 55% of the calls reported. Highest transport destinations were St. Anthony's and schools in town here. And then for update-wise, we do have the new Cascade that you approved. It's been installed at Station 2 and is up and running and working well. We are also in the hiring process right now. We're in the process of taking applications. Application period ends June 30th, and so far we have received 32 fully filled out applications for testing. We're looking to hopefully fill that out by 30th June. So at that time, I think they can test it any time throughout as part of the process, this new process that we started with the company. So, and then vehicle maintenance wise, if there's any questions, I am in charge of vehicle maintenance, but we're currently utilizing a engine from Cape Breton Fire Department, Boone County District 1 to fill in right now. Our 2022 Pierce is still in the body shop in Durango, which we're looking at, had recent updates as of 2 weeks ago, and paint was done and they're starting to put it back together. So we're looking forward to getting that back shortly. We're utilizing this engine just because we also had a couple of other issues with the other, with the ladder truck. We found a recent head gasket issue that we need to have fixed, and actually this next week, going to be worked on, so that will be, and then transferred to get the ladder fixed the rest of the way, and that'll be back in service shortly. So that looks like about all for the updates.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you. If anybody has any questions for Captain Swanson, feel free to ask. Alderman Peterson.
I do, thanks, Mayor. I just was going to comment, I noticed in the news over the last couple of weeks that a couple of neighboring municipalities had stories on about revising their EMS charges for ambulance runs. And it looked like, just from what I could piece together, it looked like actually probably Belvedere is in pretty good shape, on a comparative basis. But do we routinely review that? Do you think is there a need to do some more official study and revise that and try to recover some more of the out-of-pocket, or?
I think that it hasn't been that long since we did, since we did acquire a third party to have our ambulance calls. It was reviewed then. I certainly recall at that time that we were cognizant of the fact that we wanted to make sure that the service was affordable and what we could do. We had a learning curve there to figure out what we would get back with funding on our calls. And now I think we do have a better handle on that because it's certain we've had enough time now to check. I know Chief Shadle isn't here this evening, but certainly something we'll take a note of, and I will chat with him, and if we have to address it, we will.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, Mayor, to just jump right back in, but I was going to say, it seemed like we probably were higher than the neighboring municipalities that I was able to come up with some info, but I mean, the taxpayers should try to have it as much recovered as they can. Apparently, maybe the other municipalities don't cover as much as we do.
Okay, we'll find out. Good point. Thank you. Any other questions for Captain Swanson? Feel free, floor is open. All right, thank you, Captain Swanson. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming here this evening. Appreciate it. Moving on, item 2C in your packet is a memo from me dated May 15, 2026 for the reappointment of John W. Hunter to the Belvedere Fire and Police Commission. John Hunter has served the Belvedere Fire and Police Commission for several years in an exemplary manner. His current term is expiring. Mr. Hunter has requested reappointment for another 3-year term to the Belvedere Fire and Police Commission. As such, I offer my appointment of Mr. John Hunter to the Belvedere Fire and Police Commission for a 3-year term expiring April 30th, 2029. And with that, if I could, the recommended motion would be to consent to the appointment of John W. Hunter to the reappointment of John W. Hunter to the Belvedere Fire and Police Commission. If I could have a motion to that effect, please. Motion by Alderman McGee, second by Alderman Peterson. Thank you both. I think Mr. Hunter has been with the Police and Fire Commission probably for 12 or 13 years, I believe. I'm trying to figure back a little bit, but probably about that long. So I certainly appreciate him wanting to commit that sort of time. I know that the Police and Fire Commission has been extremely busy at times this past couple years, so certainly do appreciate it. If there's any questions regarding that motion on the floor, I'll try and answer them. If anybody has any questions regarding the reappointment of John Hunter. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And if there are any opposed or any abstentions. Motion passed, thank you. And thank you, John, for putting your name back in. Certainly appreciate it. Item 3, Finance and Personnel, unfinished business. We have none. Item 4, Finance and Personnel, new business. Item A, Finance Department update. Director Turnipseed, good evening.
Good evening. Now that the fiscal year has closed, I have placed a fiscal year 26 general fund report on your desk this evening. The report outlines each department's budgeted amounts alongside the actual revenues and expenditures. All departments either met expectations or performed better than projected. We are also at the start of our annual audit, so please keep in mind the auditors will be reviewing all these details and be making any adjustments as they reconcile and reclassify funds. A few highlights: interest income exceeded projections, and the building department's revenues came in higher than anticipated. Overall, fiscal year 26 was a strong year, and we expect similar performance in fiscal year 27. If you have any questions about a specific line item, please let me know, and we can look into it further. And that's my update.
Okay. Thank you for that, Sarah. Any questions regarding, I know you haven't had a chance to look at it, but if there's any other questions for Director Turnipseed, feel free to ask. I know she'll be able to answer them. If anybody has any other thoughts or questions. Okay. Thank you, Director. All right, and then item B, in your packet was a memo dated June 15th, 2026 from Director Turnipseed regarding residential electric aggregation program. Director Turnipseed?
Yes, so as the mayor said, there was a memo in your packet regarding the residential electric aggregation. Our current agreement expires in October. MC Squared has provided a renewal proposal that continues the financial benefits to the city while keeping the resident rate completely neutral. The proposed renewal terms, it's a civic contribution. MC Squared will continue to provide the annual civic contribution paid to the city at $36,000 per year. Rate protection. Residents will continue to pay the exact same monthly rate as the ComEd default rate. There are no enrollment or early termination fees. Seamless service. ComEd remains the delivery provider responsible for billing, line maintenance, and outage response. There is virtually no change to residents' daily experience or billing process. The most significant change in this new contract would be the renewal. The recommendation is to move to a 6-year contract. This would be from 2026 to 2032, paired with the municipal opt-out protections, operate on standard 1 or 2 year contracts, requires the city and the supplier to execute time-consuming mass mailings to all residents at each renewal cycle. By adopting a 6-year term, there will be reduced mailings. This structure limits the amount of all resident letters going out, meaning the city will not have to send out new notification letters for 6 years. This drastically eases the communication burden and minimizes resident confusion. No penalty. To protect the city's interests, the 6-year deal includes a 2-year opt-out option. The city can exit this program every 2 years without any penalty or fee if market conditions or municipal priorities change. The recommended motion to forward to City Council an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a renewal of aggregation program for electric load.
All right, if I could have a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderman Hoynes, second by Alderman Montalbano. Thank you both. If there's any questions regarding that, we'll try and answer them. As you may recall, in the past, it has been a different market. With aggregation, it has been more beneficial for municipalities to go with a third party, but in this case, they are going to make an annual contribution, as they did in the last contract. But electricity has gotten very, very competitive. And certainly, this meets the agreement that we have. It does adopt a 6-year term, but it gives us a 2-year opt-out every 2 years, as Director Turnipseed said. And I think it would be beneficial. $36,000 annually is better than nothing, and the residents will be assured that although they're not paying anything less than ComEd rates, they don't have to opt out. The rate stays the same, the service provider stays the same, the billing stays the same, and so it does benefit the community in which they live. So there is no better rates out there, no better bargain out there that I know of. And so I would ask that, we support this. So anyhow, we have a motion on the floor. If there's any questions, I'll try and answer them. Alderman Peterson.
I do. Thanks again, Mayor. Do we know what percentage, this is just only for residential customers, right? This doesn't involve any of the industrial ones. Do we know, does MC Squared give an idea of what percentage of the residents have taken advantage of this, or no?
They pick who they want, and then they can opt out. So I think it's about, I'd have to go back and check. I'll get back to you on that. But they don't want everybody. So they send out a letter to the ones they want.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that, because I was gonna say, if let's say this year it's 40, and they're gonna provide that 36,000 no matter how many do sign up, right? So I mean, if
That's
this year
correct.
it was 40%, somehow or other we can promote this and we get 60%, I mean, that's not gonna change that 36,000, we're gonna get 36,000 no matter what.
Yep. It doesn't matter how many customers. If they opt out, then they opt out. That's fine.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding the motion on the floor? We'll try and answer them. Alderman Brereton.
Thanks, Mayor. So I have never been a fan of this program. I do understand the concept of it. I understand how it's supposed to work. But me personally, I prefer to do business directly with ComEd. I don't need a third party putting their fingers in the pie. That's just my personal opinion. But I wasn't going to vote against this tonight because there is an opt-out clause, and I know we've been doing this a while. But I do have a question. I don't know. So on this 6-year term, I remember hearing something that typically any contract shouldn't go over the 4-year term of an administration. Does that factor in here?
City Attorney.
I'd have to check. I don't know if there's a separate clause within the electric aggregation enacting legislation that allows for longer term. And it depends on the contract. You're correct. Most terms for non-home municipalities are limited to 1 year. Some can go longer, for example, contracts for city administrators, things like that, or for outside counsel, like, if it was me, if I had a contract, they can go for longer than a year, but usually not to exceed the term of the current mayor. Other contracts can go for much longer. For example, collective bargaining agreements can go beyond the term of the mayor, can go for the term of the contract. Garbage contracts, I think, are limited to 20 or 30 years or something like that. So I'd have to check the legislation. The reality is, I don't like giving away too many state secrets, but the portion of the municipal codes which limit contracts to a certain duration, for example, the year, the 2 years, the term of the mayor, that makes the contract voidable, meaning we could cancel it. But it's not like it's legal. Nobody goes to jail for doing those kinds of contracts. So it does make the contract voidable, usually at the option of the city, which actually rolls in our favor. But you're right, legally, if it was certain kinds of contracts, they usually say you stick with what the state statute says. Being home rule, we can change a lot of that stuff and actually go longer than those provisions. Some home municipalities have modified the municipal code section that limits it to a 1-year contract and allows it to go longer. We have not done that. Generally, we have done on case-by-case situations where there was a longer contract, and we put in there, and actually in the agreement and in the ordinance approving the agreement, stated that the prior appropriation rule will not apply to that contract. So the short answer is, I'd have to check the enabling legislation for the specific program. The long answer is, it may not really matter in the long term anyway.
Thank you.
We'll get back before this comes back to the council and see what the city attorney finds out.
So then tonight, I'm
Alderman
just
Burden.
voting to forward this to city council.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Correct. And I said in 2 years, every 2 years, which 2 years doesn't get to the next mayor's term, but in 2 years, if there's a better bargain out there, then the city council can certainly take a look at it, and if there's something out there better, they can sign a 1-year, they could sign, depending on what the city attorney finds out, a 2-year. But I think this is as good as anything that we'll see. 36,000 isn't what it was several years ago. It was 100,000, as I recall. And so it certainly has diminished as the price of power and electricity has been more, the supply has been, has really been tightened. So, but we'll get some more information back and we'll forward it and try and address it then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Feel free to ask. Okay, we have a motion then on the floor to forward to City Council an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute a renewal of aggregation program for electric load within the city of Belvedere. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if there's any opposed or any abstentions. Motion passed, thank you. And item C, appointment of Chair of the Belvedere Planning and Zoning Commission. In your packet is a memo from myself dated June 10th, 2026, regarding the appointment of the Chair of the Belvedere Planning and Zoning Commission. The Belvedere Planning and Zoning Commission is comprised of 7 members, each serving a 5-year term. There is a 1-year chairperson term to be served by a commission member. At their June 10th, 2026 meeting, the commission nominated Mr. Gary Greenhow to serve as that chairperson. The requested motion with that in mind is motion to consent to and approve the appointment of Gary Greenhow to serve as chairperson of the Belvedere Planning and Zoning Commission for a 1-year term ending May of 2027. If I could have a motion to that effect, please. Motion by Alderman Peterson, second by Alderman Stevens. Thank you both. Any questions regarding that appointment? Feel free to ask. We'll try and answer them. Gary, I know, the council had approved Gary not too long ago to serve on the commission, and I think He has been convinced that it would be a good idea for him to take over as chairman already. So how about that? Congratulations to Gary. And thank you, Gary. So, any questions on that motion, please don't hesitate to ask. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if there are any opposed, that motion passed. Thank you. Then we have item D, appointments to the Ida Public Library Board. In your packet is a memo from me, actually 3 memos for appointment for the Ida Public Library Board of Trustees dated June 19, 2026. First, the appointment of Lucy Capitosti. The Ida Public Library Board is comprised of 9 members, each serving a 3-year term. Lucy Capitosti lives in Belvedere and has submitted a letter of interest in being appointed to fill one of the vacant seats with the term ending June 30th, 2029. The recommended motion would be to consent and approve the appointment of Lucy Capitosti to the Ida Public Library Board for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2029. If I could have a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderman McGee, second by Alderman Peterson. Thank you both. So I'd received a letter from Judy. Thank you for considering me to be on the Belvedere Public Library Board. As you've requested, here are some of my interests. First and foremost is my church. I have been a president of the UWF for 3 years. I have made friends and hope that they will be my lifelong friends. Second, books and more books. Books are a big part of my life. Always have a friend when you have a book in your hand. I've been a member of the Ida Public Library for 20 years. Thank you for your consideration. I appreciate it and look forward to hearing from you. So I think, Lucy, it's hard to find people that are interested in helping serve on some of our committees, our boards. I certainly appreciate Lucy's interest, and if there's any questions or comments, I'll try and answer them, if anybody has any regarding the motion on the floor. Hearing none, all those in favor of the appointment to the Ida Public Library Board for Lucy Capitosti, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if there are any opposed or any abstentions, that motion passed. Thank you. And then we also have a memo dated June 19th from myself regarding the appointment of Chris Havezda. The Ida Public Library Board, again, is comprised of 9 members, each serving a 3-year term. Mr. Chris Havezda lives in Belvedere and submitted a letter of interest in being appointed to fill one of the vacant seats with the term ending June 30th of 2029. I would entertain a motion to consent and approve the appointment of Chris Havezda to the Ida Public Library Board for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2029. If I could have a motion to that effect, please. Motion by Alderman Montalbano, thank you, and a second by Alderman Hoynes. Thank you both. I have a letter here from Chris. My name is Chris Havezda. I grew up in Belvedere, Illinois. I attended District 100 schools from Caledonia, Belvedere Junior High, and Belvedere Senior High School, from which I graduated. I went on to graduate with an associate's from Rock Valley College, a bachelor's of science from Wayland Baptist University, and a master's in administration from Lincoln Christian Seminary. I served active duty in the United States Air Force, as well as a couple of years of reserve duty. I live and work in Belvedere, and I appreciate very much the importance of a community library. I seek to serve on the board of the Belvedere Library. Chris Havezda. So if there's any questions regarding Mr. Havezda, I'll certainly try and answer them. Hearing none, if there are no other questions, comments, all those in favor of the appointment to Chris Havezda to the Ida Public Library Board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if there are any opposed or any abstentions, That motion passed, thank you. And then last, we have a memo from myself dated June 19, 2026, for the reappointment of Jenny Tillema. Jenny Tillema has served on the library board. I believe this is, she had concluded a 3-year term. She does on June 30th of this year. I would recommend a motion to consent and approve the appointment of Jenny Tillema to the Ida Public Library Board, reappointment of Jenny Tillema to the Ida Public Library Board for a 3-year term ending June 30th of 2029. If I could have a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderwoman Frank, second by Alderman Albertini. Thank you both. And I have a letter from Jenny Tillema. Dear Mayor Morris, I am writing to express my interest in renewing my term as trustee of the Ida Public Library in June. Currently, I'm serving as Vice President, Chair of the Building and Grounds Committee and the Expansion Committee. Much of the work I am involved with centers around the challenges of maintaining the building as it ages. We have certainly had our share of challenges this past year, but we are blessed to have such a beautiful building and property to take care of. The library is also in the beginning stages of looking towards expanding. The focus of the expansion is to provide additional meeting spaces and study areas. We chose Jeff Ernest as an architect. He loves the library as much as we do, and we certainly care not to compromise the integrity of our current building. The library and our city have so many things happening that more room is needed, and that's amazing. I am thankful to work alongside the director, Mindy Long, and the board. I have found this current board to be efficient, timely, and thoughtful. I would very much love the opportunity to continue to serve our community. I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns you may have. Thank you for your consideration, Jenny Tillema. So I did have an opportunity to talk to Jenny and all 3 of these individuals. And if there's any questions regarding that appointment, feel free to ask. As I said, we're lucky, fortunate to have so many good people that show an interest in the library and the community. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion of Jenny Tillema to the Ida Public Library Board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if there's any opposed or any abstentions, motion passed. Thank you very much. You will see that again in 2 weeks. Moving on, 5 other unfinished business. We have none. Item 6, other new business. Item A, I'd put this on the agenda. I'd talked with Gina about this and regarding Perry School and any landmark status. It was my thoughts, and I've talked to some of the other council members regarding the historical significance of Perry School. Been around since 1900, probably only closed because the school board had not kept their end of the bargain to maintain or to provide funding for the school. And anything that doesn't have maintenance certainly has an issue. And I think that's essentially what had happened several years ago, or a couple years ago actually. I had presented a check to the school district for $520,871, I do believe. And, I was hoping that at the time when they had agreed to the board had agreed to keep Perry School open, I was hoping some of that money would find its way to the cause that they said they were going to close it for, which was a roof. They needed a roof. So they voted to keep it open. They used the funding for something other than evidently the roof, and they closed Perry School with a new board. So here we are. So I thought, I didn't know, fully understand at the time that I'd placed this on the agenda what that historical significance may mean. I do know what it means closing the school means to the neighborhood, and I do know what it means to the children, and I do know what it means to the community. For the children, it means they're going to get bused. That's, to me, not a good thing. For the neighborhood, it means that if that building is boarded up, we may have another St. Joe Hospital, as we have on the other side of town. We may end up with a junior high, a former junior high school over on Pearl Street that Alderman Peterson went and got federal funding for in 1995, I believe, 1994. federal funding to the tune of $4 million to be able to keep that, to be able to renovate that. But short of that, that building would have been on the city to tear it down. And so we're not going to take any schools on the taxpayer's dime for a school district that charges 68% of property taxes for education and then abandons a school for $7 million of fix-up, and they don't think it's in it. They'd rather go ahead and bus children, and they'd rather close that school. So that's what they have done. But I did want to put it on the agenda because I have felt strongly about Perry School. I feel strongly about any time the city loses a landmark, but especially one in education, and one that hasn't been, that building certainly was deprived of any funding over the years, and it just hasn't been recently. It's been for a long, long time that that school had not been received any funding. They'd always, I think, anticipated there were plans were to close Perry School, and now they've done it. So, but I did want to talk, ask Gina, I did talk to Gina about what it meant to put that landmark status on Perry School and some of the benefits, and I learned a little bit from what she had said, but I wanted the council to hear it as well. So Gina, would you mind?
So to landmark a property, you do not need the owner's consent. It is highly recommended you have the owner's consent, though. Landmarking, there's two types of landmark. There's local landmark and there's National Registry landmark. National Registry is administered by the State of Illinois Historic Preservation Office, and it's a federal level designation. Local landmark is for government entities that are certified local governments that have an approved Historic Preservation Commission. They have the authority to have local landmarks and historic districts. For historic districts, you need 51% of the residents within that district to sign off on it. Again, for the individual local landmark, it is just highly recommended. To landmark, a local landmark, a property, it does not have anything to do with the inside. You can gut the building, you can leave it vacant. It doesn't regulate the land use, it doesn't force something to stay open, and it does not have an impact on the interior remodel. All it does is control the exterior aesthetics. Some communities have very strict regulations where they will dictate the colors you can have, the type of fencing you can have. Belvedere is a little bit more realistic in their guidelines. We don't dictate colors, but we do say, you know, if you have a clay tile roof, it needs to stay clay tile. If you have a 2x3 window, we want it to stay 2x3. We don't want to bricked in windows, or we don't want wood siding getting covered with vinyl siding. We want the materials to stay the way they are. So you do regulate any exterior improvements that goes along with additions or expansions. For instance, there was a property owner whose daughter was in a horrific car accident, so they were putting a wheelchair lift on the front, which meant they had to alter their front porch. So they had to go through the commission for a certificate of appropriateness to alter that front porch to add the wheelchair lift. So it does make it more difficult to do renovations, especially on a large-scale renovation. And again, it doesn't control the land use. It doesn't control staying open. So some view it as a hindrance because of that extra regulation. On the flip side, by being landmarked, for demolition, you would need to have the Historic Preservation Commission approve a demolition, and they have approved them in the past. They could also deny them in the future. It depends on the reasoning, the status of the structure, stuff like that. One of the benefits of landmarking is that there are state tax credits and federal tax credits that help with renovations. However, one of the funny things is if you're a National Registry landmark, there are no guidelines. You can do whatever you want to the building, and the federal government does not care until you want to use federal money for the renovations. Then there's a very strict set of standards for those renovations. So again, if you're a local landmark and you're using the federal tax credits and state tax credits, then you are restricted to very strict standards for the renovations. One thing, unfortunately, I know the Park District looked into it for the Baltic Mill, the libraries looked into it for the library, with it being a Carnegie building, is if you are a tax exempt entity, you don't get to take advantage of those tax credits because there is no taxes involved. So the tax credits are really there for private entities. That is why that private company bought Pearl Street and renovated it. So landmarking and building would help for possible reuse into like residential and stuff like that, but it can't force it to stay a school. It can't force it to stay open. As far as overall property maintenance, maintaining it and not letting it fall into a state of disrepair, that is your property maintenance code, not your historic preservation regulations. So that is a very quick summary. Any questions? That I'm not sure. I'd have to look into because that's not a permanent change to the structure by boarding up the window. So I'm not quite sure since it's not a permanent change.
Generally speaking, it would not force that. Again, that'd be property maintenance. Property maintenance does allow windows to be boarded up. When they board up windows, they have to put a protective coating on them if they're going to be permanent, or if they're going to be there for a long time. Where it would affect it, Mayor, is if they were going to permanently close the windows and keep using the building, similar to what some of the storefronts on State Street have done. And I'm thinking specifically the building at the corner of, I think it's Locust and State, for a long time had boarded up windows on the second story and probably still do. That kind of permanent alteration might trigger a certificate of appropriateness from the commission. But any kind of a building maintenance thing where they board up windows because they're broken or to protect the windows from getting broken, probably would not.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Peterson?
And Mayor, when the city had what is now Pearl Place dumped on us, none of the windows were boarded up, and it wasn't long, and they were all getting broken. So Public Works had to go over. Our Public Works Department literally boarded it all up. But then we discovered that there was a lot of vandalism going on. Then we discovered that fires were being set inside by the books that were left behind when it was abandoned. So it literally was starting to get to be a worry whether or not something could ever happen to it before vandals burned it down. So it might be that, requiring some protection on the plywood on the windows, as bad as it looks, it might be necessary to keep that kind of thing from happening and being the death stroke for that. I was gonna just to comment for punctuate what Gina said. At least one thing we have going over there is the residential zoning right now. So it, unlike say with the Logan Avenue School, the city probably wasn't gonna be able to have too much say when Logan School was abandoned because of the zoning. The zoning, it would be permitted, but at least, we're kind of starting from, I would assume, the most restrictive zoning that there is in terms of, whatever the next occupancy would be.
Good thing we have that brand new shiny zoning map.
So I'd be surprised if it's not, I'm assuming it's institutional.
It's on Crosby, right?
Yeah, between Crosby
Perry.
and Boone and.
Yep,
so Here.
it's zoned institutional right now.
And that's mainly for a school, right?
Institutional is for schools, libraries, YMCA's, museums. It can also be by special use, more intense land uses like jails, hospitals, dormitories, again, by special use with added restrictions. So it's your institutional, civic, public service kind of thing. Civic.
Okay, Alderman Peterson.
Would a residential reuse then require a rezoning then for it, wouldn't it?
Correct. Nursing homes, like that kind of residential, assisted living, nursing home, those would be special uses. But, single family, standard apartment, stuff like that would need either a rezoning or a special use for a planned development.
Okay. Thank you. Alderman Montalbano.
Just a question, thank you, Mayor. Being that they collected taxes on this building and they needed money for the roof, which the city helped them for, is there anything the city can do for misappropriation of funds on this part of it? You gave them a pretty big check to fix the roof and they didn't do it. So to me, you're collecting taxes, you got help to fix the roof. To me, that would be misappropriation of funds. Is there anything the city can do against the district for that?
I rarely have a one-word answer, but it's no. Yeah, and the funds that were provided by the city were not actually provided. We collected the money, but that was impact fees collected by the city pursuant to our ordinances for the benefit of the school district. They were not tied to a roof. They could have used them for the roof. They could have used them for maintenance on that building or other buildings, but there is no limitation on their use of those funds. But the easy answer is no.
And I might just say, question, I don't know if there was no roof that was replaced over there, and then perhaps it didn't need a new roof. I don't know. 2 years ago, did it need a new roof? I guess that would be a logical question to me. Did it need a roof? For $300,000, I think was the bid. But maybe it didn't. But yeah, I think the city of Belvedere is only the city or county government can collect impact fees for the burden that new growth creates with impact fees. For the burden of growth being education being the largest service that a lot of times when you have building as we did in the early 2000s and you had subdivisions coming in, it doesn't take many houses if you're averaging 2 children per home to put a burden on your education, on your schools. And that's exactly what happened. And prior to that, when Alderman Peterson was mayor, he had initiated impact fees as a way to make sure that the longtime residents of Belvedere weren't footing the bill for the burden of growth, because as I've always said, after your developer cashes his last check or realtor, then they're gone. And we inherit, taxpayers here in Belvedere, we inherit whatever that burden of growth is with services, education, with police and fire, calls for service. So it all adds up. So we do collect them. The county doesn't collect them for the District 100 anymore. They don't collect them for District 200 or North Boone. Is that District 200? Whatever that district is. But they don't collect them for North Boone, but they don't collect them for District 100 either. But the city has done that since Alderman Peterson had put those in I think 1995, somewhere around there. So anyhow, that's the rest of that story. But no, we didn't give it to them, but we collected it. Without us, they wouldn't have received the check. And that's not the only check they've received over the years. And that's why I had always said that, you can let anything go until the point where it fails. And then you can point to the failure because you haven't done any investment in whatever that may be. And in this case, I believe it was Perry School, and I always have. So that's the rest of it, but it's water over the dam. But if it does help, I wanted to make sure regarding any development or revitalization or investment in the Perry School building. I know any of the neighbors that live over there, they're going to appreciate it, that's for sure. And I thought we should explore it as a committee. So Alderman Peterson, then Alderman Montalbano.
So in real estate, they-
Albertini, I'm sorry, Albertini.
you know, real estate, they say, you know, location, location. The people over there have already lost the park pool, and now they've already lost the neighborhood school. And I think, you know, we've got one less chance to keep this from being what OSF did to the neighborhood on Andrews Drive when they walked away from St. Joe's Hospital and left a mess for us. And I don't think we want to just take that laying down and have the school district do the same kind of slap in the face that was. I think we've got one last chance to save some of the last of our architectural and cultural heritage with Perry School. We don't get a second chance to do this for our posterity, so I would ask if there's a need to have a motion made to, you know, to ask that the Historic Preservation Commission consider making an application to, you know, consider this action to be a request to have an application for a local landmark. I would certainly make that motion.
All right, that's a motion then, and it would require a second if that's the case. Second by Alderman Hoynes. Okay, now it's open for discussion. Alderman Albertini, you had your hand up?
Yes, I did, thank you. So I'm trying to understand, what is the goal of requiring a landmark status for this school? And it's not going to prevent the school from closing, obviously. What would become of the building? It just stands there as a landmark status? And who would be responsible for maintaining this landmark? The schools or the city or?
Well, go ahead, City Attorney.
If the school was successfully landmarked, it honestly doesn't change anything. The school would still own it. They would still, unless they sold it to a third party, have the maintenance responsibility on it. They would not have to open it. They would not have to use it. It would not prevent them from selling it. It would not prevent them from putting another use inside of it that complied with our zoning codes. An institutional use, which would be pretty much anything the school district wanted to do, school-related, including storage or office space or what have you. The only thing it would do is, frankly, maybe help preserve the facade of the building, and that would prevent them from, you know, reconstructing it in a very modern look or something like that, which I don't know if they would do anyway or not. It would make it slightly more difficult for them to make improvements to the outside of the building, because they'd have to get that certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission. That would help preserve the existing look of it, but also makes it more difficult to make changes to it. It would theoretically, if they were looking to tear the building down, make them go get a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission to allow the demolition of the structure, but as Gina said, that has historically been allowed for multiple reasons, one of which is if a building is in horrible shape, which it could get to by at some point in time, and you deny that, there are arguments for a takings clause argument in the future that you're denying the valuable use of the land, and therefore there's a monetary fee owed by the governmental entity that put that regulation in place. I think that'd be probably unlikely to occur, but that's an outside potential many, many years down the road. But the short answer is it does nothing to preserve it as a viable school at all. It just says that the existing look will remain basically the same.
But it does, if you have historical designation, it does allow you to pursue funding, correct?
But not government entities, because they don't pay the property
Yeah,
taxes and
right,
stuff.
right.
So it would allow private entities, which is why you see a lot of conversions into apartments and stuff like that, because it would be for private entities.
You know, a classic example, forgive me, I don't remember if Mayor Pearson was mayor when they did the Pro Place conversions, or if that was
Yeah.
a different administration. That's exactly what they did, is they transferred it to private hands, then the private entity was able to use historic designation to get tax credits to help fund their reconstruction. But while the school owns it, it does nothing for them because there's no tax credits to get.
Alderman Peterson.
It's exactly right, and Pearl Place already got also got tax increment financing because there'd been in 1990, there was a TIF district created for a 23-year period, so they got in on that. I'm just gonna say, if I lived in any of the peripheral properties around Perry School or between Perry School and Lincoln and where the park pool used to be, I would want the city to do something rather than nothing. I would want to see that somebody's looking out for what's going on in my neighborhood with my neighborhood school that used to be next door. I would want to think that the city, out of the various taxing bodies, was not the one that went dormant and went fetal on me at the last minute.
Yeah, thank you. Alderwoman Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. I went to Lincoln School on North Main and Perry. And I remember when they tore that building down. Sorry, when they tore that building down. And I'm reading here, and it says the Lincoln School site, which date back to 1854, will be torn down to make room for needed courthouse space in years to come, and they have not used it for space. I think it was sometimes used for parking, extra parking, and now it's just used for like surplus supplies for working on the courthouse. But I remember that was sad to see that torn down.
I would agree. You know, I think Alderman Peterson brings up a good point, you know, that you can let it, you don't have to give it any historical designation, and then any private that decides to look at it, they wouldn't have the advantages of perhaps getting any breaks or acquiring any funding. Is that correct, Gina?
They would, to be a landmark, since I've been with the city, it's always been the property owner has applied for the landmark status. Again, it's not required, but that's always been the status quo. So if they were to sell it to a private entity, or a private entity agree to purchase it on the condition that become landmarked, then yes, either the school or the private entity could themselves apply for it.
So I think, you know, with the old high school, I went to, when I attended on Pearl, it was a junior high. Many of you attended there as, I think some of you as high school, but many of you as junior high. You know, that building had dilapidated to the point where it was going to fall in. It had a lot of vandalism, and it was just almost to the point of no return. But it certainly was an eyesore in Belvedere, in the community, on Pearl Street for years, in that ward for years. And fortunately, that did work out. But it's up to the, you know, I wanted to bring this to the committee because I wanted to explore whether or not there's any incentives or it's advantageous to go ahead and put a historical designation on it. If it preserves the outside, so be it. It doesn't preserve the inside, people can still utilize it. But at least, you know, some of the, for instance, look at St. Joe. Just go by St. Joe. Go up and look at that. You know, that is a mess. And the problem with that is I had entertained tearing that down, demoing it, but it's to the point, back then, 5 years ago, it was $1.3 million approximately to demo that building. And the city, you know, sure, we could buy it or we could obtain it, but then how are you going to afford to do anything other than what's being done with it? Drive by it, take a look at it, look at the graffiti, look at the windows that are boarded up. It's an eyesore to the community, to the neighborhood. And in this case, I don't know. I don't know if I have the answer. I believe that maybe a landmark designation might be advantageous, but I'm not sure, and that's why we have it here tonight to talk about. Alderwoman Frank?
I was just going to mention, and you were mayor too, or mayor at the time, there was a lot of vandalism over there, and with the dentist office, there was the tunnel, and being a dentist, he has drugs on site, and they had the hardest time catching the people that were breaking in, and they were young kids. I think they were middle school.
Yeah, you know, just property that's dilapidated to the point where, you know, curiosity or whatever, vandalism or whatever, it, you know, it has an opportunity to occur. In that case, it happened under the cover of the annex between the two buildings, and those windows were broken out, and then they had boarded them up, but they had access to that other building to the west, and, or to the south. They had access to the building to the south, and it just was a real problem to be able to keep that safe. So I did get the owner to tear that annex down because it prevented people from getting into the office that was to the west, or to the north, so, to the south. So anyhow, the dental office. So, yeah. Alderman Peterson.
And to get back to the St. Joe's example, I think it's proved what I think Mayor Giuliani established in his term in New York City with broken windows policing. And I can say, for having been through, you know, the before and after, that the abandonment and boarding up of St. Joe's Hospital has not been good for that neighborhood at all. And there's nothing that says, you know, that we're turning our back on you, like abandoned buildings and obvious vandalism, and just, you know, that's obvious that there's no plan. Nobody has a plan and nobody cares, and it's contagious.
So I guess in front of you tonight is a question about whether or not any historical designation, if the council would like to refer that to the Historical Preservation Committee and see what their thoughts were. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Alderman Burden.
Thanks again, Mayor. Appreciate it. So I appreciate your passion on this topic of Perry School, but I wish something would have been in the packet with a little more detail, because I didn't see anything on this. Question, so is there a plan? Does the school district have a plan for this building? It's for sale right now? Yeah, I don't know. I just wish I would have been a little more prepared. I don't know what, you know, so does anybody here wish they would have made St. Joe's a landmark? Is that what we're saying?
Well, you know, I don't know. I think what Alderman Peterson had said is that the city at least takes some steps, in this case, to put a designation on it. Now, whether or not that helps with the exterior, I don't know. I guess I can't answer that. Now, whether or not St. Joe's went into private hands first, I don't think the city ever owned St. Joe, did it?
Contrary to popular belief, the city never owned St. Joe.
Yeah, so.
We had the option to buy it, I think, in 2000 or 2001, but the council at that time declined to do so.
Well, we don't own the school either.
No, we don't. And we don't know what's gonna happen to it. Maybe when it gets bought, it may get bought by an owner that feels the same way about the school as they do about a hospital. I don't know. But if it's landmark designated, then is that something that, you know, it can't be, you know, it potentially can be obtained for money to help a potential buyer to invest in it? And does it help us with the exterior? It doesn't with the interior, is my understanding, which I know. So, I don't know. I'm just searching, you know, it isn't so much Alderman Burden about passion. I just think that, you know, it's such a raw deal for, you know, that neighborhood, for the city of Belvedere, for the community, you know, for the taxpayer. You know, the taxpayer, Perry School didn't owe the taxpayer a penny. Perry School had been paid for probably a century. You know, it had been around for 126 years, but it didn't owe the taxpayers anything. And now to see it, you know, where it is going to owe the taxpayers probably a whole lot, if it is not developed, redeveloped, or if it's purchased and nobody goes after it for money. But at least the exterior is something that everybody sees would, you know, that'll have an impact on the neighborhood. That's how I look at it. Alderman Peterson?
Yeah, the St. Joe's Hospital argument, I think, is a real red herring, because I don't think anybody's claiming that there's any architectural significance to that building. I think the argument is that OSF just kind of walked away irresponsibly, and yet, within a couple of years, they built medical clinics to do much the same that could have been done there. So I think it was just corporate indifference. But I think we expect a little bit different from the community unit school district 100 that we pay taxes to, and that should be a better corporate neighbor than what OSF was here at the time. I think nobody would complain if they wanted to demolish St. Joe's Hospital. I think it could come right down and nobody would have a whimper. And I think the old Washington School could probably get demolished and probably no one would miss it. But I think, having lived here my whole life, I would say that, Perry School's kind of woven into the cultural and architectural fabric of Belvedere. If I lived in the neighborhood, I think I'd want something done. I wouldn't want to just say, I don't understand, we can't do anything, so let her rip.
So I don't know, Alderman Baird, and I don't know if that answers your question.
So, I wish something would have been in the packet. I had nothing at all, just the topic.
Yeah.
So, are we gonna obtain this school? Is that the goal? Or is the city gonna end up being responsible for
Well,
this?
the city can put designation on any building as they have, as they have with the library, depend on the historical significance, correct, Gina? Is that correct? It falls
The
on,
library is not landmarked.
oh, I thought it was because it was a Frank Lloyd Wright.
It's a Carnegie building,
Or a
but,
Carnegie, excuse
so if they wanted to, they would be eligible, but it is not landmarked.
Okay, what buildings are?
Oh, there's about 26 in town. What? The Pettit Chapel, Pearl Place, about half of the Foote Mansion, the Whitbeck Mansion, the Dudden House, the Gilman House, the Alexander House, Nico's Cabin. The what? The Wildflower House is national. There's about 27. I'd be happy to give Erica the brochures to put in next week's packets for you
Yeah.
guys.
So in answer to your question, Alderman Byrd, and, I didn't put anything together because I wasn't sure what the historical significance was. I thought we could explore it here. And there isn't anything that I would have put in the packet or that you would have had in the packet. Matter of fact, that it hasn't been talked about tonight. And, this is just it's a committee meeting, and it's a place where whatever the council's pleasure is, we should probably move it on or not. Alderman Burden?
Thanks again. I get it, and it doesn't sound like the worst idea I've ever heard. But I don't know. I don't know if we're just beating a dead horse here. I don't know.
Yep, no worries. Alderwoman Gramkowski.
Thank you, Mayor. So what I'm hearing is this is the school district's building. They're going to do with it what they want. We can preserve the outside if possible, but this is over.
Mhm. Yeah.
Can we kind of vote on this and move along?
Yeah, we can, I guess. I look at it through the neighborhood, through the neighbor. If I lived next to it, I know how I'd feel. And if it was in your neighborhood, you probably would too. So I'm willing to give it a little bit of time. Alderman Peterson?
I think we got the cart a little bit ahead of the horse here, because actually the people that really are in the know on the merits of this are gonna be the people on the Belvedere Historic Preservation Commission. That's why they serve, and I think they're gonna have a much better, they're probably gonna address a whole host of issues here that we tonight can't even think of. I would be in favor of seeing, they're the brain trust. I would be in favor of seeing what their analysis is, because nothing happens until they initiate it and pass it on to us for approval anyhow. If they initiate it and say, do it, and the city council says no, then it doesn't happen. So I think we need to have this much of an approval to tell them, spend some time on this and expand this and develop it for us, because you guys have the expertise for it.
Well, that's true, and I was initially going to send it to the Historic Preservation Committee. I was gonna send it there initially, and I rejected that because I thought, I don't know, what the council's gonna feel for this, but I would agree that at least they would be more familiar with that than probably we are. We're kind of grasping at straws here, but, you know, if it goes to them and there's any, whatever discussion comes back to the council, then it would be, at least we would be more informed, I think.
For clarification, what development plan are you expecting out of historic preservation? Typically, they just look at an application submitted to them that says, here's either the history of businesses, owners, or architecture of the property, with pictures, with narratives, all that stuff, submits to them, and they then compare it to the guidelines they have. Much like with special uses, you have findings of facts, they have guidelines. So what plans and details are you expecting to come out of that commission?
Alderman Peterson.
Do you want someone to put together an application to do that then with photographs and, you know, kind of a summary of what, and I guess that could come back even to the city if there's a need to try to create something to authorize and send to them. I'd certainly be willing to, you know, to put something like that together.
Well, yeah, but aside from the application that is required to be submitted for the public hearing that is required to be held, you were talking about how to give it to historic preservation so that they could come up with a development plan and flesh out things. That's what I'm questioning. What did you mean by that?
No, not necessarily that, but just their take on the appropriateness of having it designated as a local landmark, and as, you know, does it meet the criterion? You know, if so, what would the potential reuses be? You know,
That's outside their purview. Come up with potential reuses of the property. That's outside their parameters that they're allowed to function within.
Whether or not, though, Gina, whether or not that it meets the designation,
You can compare if it meets the qualifications to be a landmark, but not for future uses.
That's fine. I think that would be more than what we have now, you know? And that's why I didn't ask you to go forward with it on your agenda, and we talked about it. And I agreed that I don't know what the council wants to do, other than move on real quick here. So if there's, Alderman Albertini?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think it matters to the city as far as financial debts or anything. It's just a matter of whether you want to save a building's historic preservation. It would be no cost to the city in the future if it was designated as a historic preservation building or landmark. I don't see the reason why we wouldn't want to if it is something that the Historic Society who does this designates it as a landmark. Well, good, you know, good for them, because it's not going to cost us anything. So for us to go forward and say, let's see if they want to do it, why not? I mean, it's not costing us anything, and it preserves the building, and that's what I think this initial discussion was about, trying to preserve the exterior of the building. And because it's not costing the city anything, I'd say we should move forward with it to try to see if we can get this landmark status.
Well, I
Thank
think
you.
I appreciate that. I think at least the committee can, you know, decide to send it to the Historical Commission and get their read on it. I don't see any harm in that. Whatever they think about that. I suppose if any building in Belvedere probably deserved a historical landmark designation, I would suppose this would be one of them. I don't know. Alderman Peterson?
I think at a minimum, even just getting some feedback from them, you know, I mean, that'd be within their bailiwick, right? But we could either turn our back on it and say, you know, we don't see any future and we're just not gonna do anything, or we can say, let's try something, you know, somebody run a play in. Somebody call a play, coach.
If it meets the designation qualifications or criteria, Gina, I think that would be what I would think would be appropriate to look at.
Yeah, again, I just want clarification. The commission, they're tasked with, does it meet landmarking status criteria? Not, again, Landmarking has zero to do with land use. So I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page with that.
It's with the building, I think we understand that, the exterior in particular. Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to refer it to go ahead and refer this to the Historic Preservation Committee. If there's any other comments or questions, Alderman Brereton?
Thanks again, sorry. So we're gonna refer this to the Historic Preservation Committee, and then they're gonna come to us with an opinion or a recommendation?
Whether or not it meets the criteria, correct, Gina?
So the way landmarking works is that I have to publish it in the paper 15 to 30 days prior to the Historic Preservation Commission. So it gets published. They hold their own public hearing, so the public can come speak for or against it. Obviously, the property owner can come speak for or against it. Then they would compare the application submitted with the criteria required to meet landmark status. After the public hearing, they'll make a vote, and then that vote is a recommendation that they bring to city council, and city council ultimately either approves it by ordinance or denies it.
Okay.
Thanks
Alderman
again.
Brereton?
Thanks again, Mayor. I mean, I guess, I'm not convinced either way, but
Yeah.
can always vote no later, I guess.
Yeah, well, this will come back, just for protocol here, this will come back to the council before we approve to send it. So if you have reconsider anything that, from here on, 2 weeks, you'll have a chance to do so. Alderman Hoynes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just think it shows the people of Belvedere that we care, because obviously the board didn't care too much about closing that school. Plain and simple. I mean, because I wouldn't want that if I lived in there and it's my ward, but I don't live next to it, I wouldn't want to board it up and it sat there. I want it to be preserved and keep it that way. That's what we're here. We're here for the people, and that's what we're here supposed to do. We're supposed to be caring for them, not for each other or the board. The board never cared for them. Board just she had her way with it, and they passed it that they weren't going to close it, and then she got another board in, and now they went and canceled it. So what happened between those 2 years? So let's show the people of the city that we do care, and let's do something for it.
All right, so it's to forward it to the council to approve, final approval. If anybody has any reconsideration between now and then, you'll have a chance to vote. If it dies here, it dies here. If it moves on to the council, if it passes, it'll move on. So, any other questions, any comments? All right, we have a motion on the floor then to send this to the Historic Preservation Committee for criteria regarding historical status of Perry School. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposed, any abstentions? Motion passed, thank you. All right, item B, repeal of section 110-22. In your packet was a memo from City Attorney Drella dated 6/18 of '26. City Attorney, looks like this one kind of appeared as a surprise.
Next two on the agenda should go quickly. Some of you might recall, in the old days, we actually had a vehicle sticker called a tax. Everybody had to go buy a sticker to drive in the city. Section 110-20, it's actually 222, not 22. 110-222 was the operative section that allowed a police officer to write a parking ticket if somebody parked a car on the street without a city sticker. When the city repealed the requirement for the stickers back in, best as I can tell, is probably the early to mid-90s, might have been late 90s, but in the 90s, they forgot to repeal this section. And this cropped up because a police officer was writing a ticket for somebody that had an expired Illinois sticker and wrote this code section by accident instead of the other one, so I thought I'd clean it up. So the recommended motion is a motion to repeal section 110-222 of the City of Belvedere Municipal Code.
All right, if I could have a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderman Albertini, second by Alderman Montalbano. Thank you both. Any questions, any comments regarding that, regarding city sticker requirement cleanup of section 110-222? Long overdue. Any questions, any comments regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed or any abstentions? Motion passed, thank you. And then item C, 6C, Wycliffe Monitoring Wells. Again, in your packet is a memo from Attorney Drella dated May 21st of 2026 regarding Wycliffe Monitoring Wells with a project the Freed Corporation has been involved, has owned the property, but City Attorney?
And this one's almost as easy. Back when they began developing the Wycliffe subdivision near the landfill, some problems had occurred where some methane gas was noted to be leaking into people's residences. At that time, the developer Freed Corporation, in conjunction with the city, with the blessings of the EPA, although they were not a party to any agreements, the Freed Corporation agreed to install monitoring wells to make sure that there was no more methane leaching into this residential subdivision. They have never seen any indication of any leaching methane since they put those monitoring wells in over 20 years ago. And that occurred in early 2003. Further, the monitoring wells for landfill itself have shown no leaking or leaching methane gas or other gases towards the subdivision. So basically, they're not needed anymore. We did contact EPA. They've got no opinion on this matter whatsoever. Freed Corporation is closing down operations. They're going bye-bye, literally. The kids don't want to take over the corporation. They will cease to exist. Therefore, there'd be nobody to maintain these or check them because they'd be gone. And if we don't agree to close them and cap them appropriately, they'd actually fall to the responsibility of the homeowners whose property these monitoring wells are located. So this actually helps out the property owners by getting rid of the wells, capping them in accordance with statute, and then replacing the yard so that it's back to normal. So the recommended motion is to approve the agreement to terminate the 2003 monitoring agreement and to approve the escrow agreement to guarantee closure of the monitoring wells. The escrow agreement basically is Freed will agree to close the wells in accordance with statute and codes, and they're depositing a certain amount of money to guarantee that closure.
Okay, if I could have a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderman Peterson, second by Alderman Stevens. Thank you both. Any questions regarding the motion? Floor is open. Alderman Peterson?
Thanks, Mayor. You might have mentioned it, Mike, and I might have missed it. Did the EPA sign off on closing up all those monitoring wells then, or no?
I did mention it. We did contact EPA. They said they would take no position on it because they were never party to the original 2003 agreements. They're referencing the agreement. They were contacted at that point. But when Mr. Anderson, before he retired, contacted them, they were not going to take any legal position on it. They did indicate that they've got no problem with it because, one, they were not part of the original agreement, but two, there's absolutely been no indication of any leaching gases in that direction anyway. But they're not going to take any legal position on it.
I do remember when there was some initial concern that some of the homes were concerned about methane getting into their basements and stuff. I remember when the wells were gonna have to be installed, but I just didn't remember what the closure plan required.
There was no closure plan in the original agreement. It was incredibly open-ended. So this is effectively the closure plan for that, is what we're preparing now. And if you recall, you probably have a better recollection than I would, because most of this actually predates me by a few months. But many of the homes in proximity to the landfill, Freed actually agreed to install gas mitigation systems in their basements, kind of like what you see with a radon mitigation system. Those were put in as well to guarantee their safety.
So I did think that there was some evidence of methane being in some of their basements, but I could be wrong. It's been so long ago, I wouldn't swear to it.
Yeah, all I can say is since that time, there's been no indication.
Okay. All right, any other questions regarding the motion on the floor? Feel free to ask. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if there are any opposed or any abstentions? Motion passed, thank you. And item D, in your packet is a memo from Director Keck dated 6/12 of '26 regarding asset management plan at the Water Department. Director?
Thank you, Mayor. The Water Department's FY '27 budget includes $50,000 to create an asset management plan for our water system in response to our latest IEPA water system inspection. We are also required to update our risk and resilience assessment and emergency response plan every 5 years per federal requirements. The last time the risk and resilience assessment and ERP were updated was in 2021. And attached to this memo is a proposal from Strand Associates to update the RRA and ERP and develop an asset management plan in an amount not to exceed $50,000. I would recommend approval of the proposal from Strand Associates in the amount not to exceed $50,000 to update our risk and resilience assessment and emergency response plan and to develop an asset management plan. This work will be paid for from water depreciation line 61-1780.
All right, if I could have a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderman Stevens, second by Alderman Hoynes. Thank you both. Any questions for Director Keck? I thought his memo explained it pretty well, but if anybody has any questions, please ask. All right, not hearing. Alderman Peterson?
Just a quick question, Mayor. This will get us through for, this will be a 5-year period this will buy for us then? Is that correct?
It'll be 5 years for the risk and resilience assessment and the ERP. Those are required every 5 years that we have to self-certify that we updated them per the new standards. So that's what's going to be taking place here. The asset management plan will be a new thing that was a recommendation from the IEPA that'll basically come up with capital improvement program and give us a look at what our water system's looking like, where we should, where we might need to look at updating pumps and, other equipment and what kind of maintenance they might need, so.
So it could be, we might want to do something similar then, before that 5 years is up, as far as the asset management plan itself then?
The asset management plan will probably, make its way into like a working document, so, as things get added, subtracted, it may be something that we update on a more frequent basis, but probably more likely, 5-year period.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Director Keck regarding the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
And if there are any opposed or any abstentions? That motion passed, thank you. And item 6E, again, in your packet is a memo from Director Keck regarding the 2026 motor fuel tax street overlay bid tabulations. Director?
Thank you, Mayor. So last week, we had a bid opening for the city's 2026 MFT street overlay program. We received one bid back, as shown on the memo. The engineer's estimate for this work was $957,697. And then there's a second part to this. We also received a total cost of $80,204 to overlay our portion of Shaw Road on Boone County's MFT contract. So a little bit of history. Because the majority of Shaw Road is a township road, the county has agreed to include our small portion of the road in their overlay program, which ends up being a pretty good deal for us. For reference, our cost per ton for asphalt for our current contract was $95.86, whereas Boone County's cost per ton was $80, and that's just due to them doing a lot more quantity than we do with their overlays. So first motion I'd be looking for is approval of the low bid from Rock Road Companies in the amount of $968,888.93 for the 2026 MFT Street Overlay Program, subject to IDOT approval. This work will be paid for from MFT funds.
All right, thank you for that, Director. If I could have a motion to that effect, please. Motion by Alderman Montalbano, second by Alderman Hoynes. Thank you both. Any questions from the committee regarding the motion on the floor? Feel free to ask. Alderman Peterson.
I was surprised, I was just gonna ask, was Rock Road then? Were you surprised that Rock Road was the only respondent then, or?
I'm not surprised it was the same way last year. So it used to be Rock Road and Curran bid on it, but ever since Curran shut down their local plant, they just can't compete in Boone County, from what I've been told, because the distance they have to travel to back and forth just doesn't make it economical for them. So I'm not surprised.
Okay, thank you. That's the only one we got. All right. Any other questions regarding that motion, the first portion of the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposed, same sign, or any abstentions. That motion passed. And then last part of that, Director?
So I would recommend approval to reimburse Belvedere Township in the amount of $80,204 for the overlay of Shaw Road after completion. This work will be paid for from MFT funds.
All right, we have that motion. If there's any, do we have a motion on the floor? I'm sorry. Motion by Alderman Peterson. Thank you. Second by Alderman Albertini. Thank you. Any questions regarding the motion on the floor? Feel free to ask. Floor is open. All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if there's any opposed. Any abstentions? That motion passed, thank you. Item F, in your packet, a memo dated 6/17/2026 from Director Keck regarding our 2026 MFT thermoplastic paving, striping, bid tabulation. Just Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Per the attached memo, the following bids were opened last week for the 2026 MFT thermoplastic pavement striping project. The estimate for this work was $37,545. So I would recommend approval of the low bid from AC Pavement Striping Company in the amount of $21,525.80 for the 2026 MFT thermoplastic striping project, subject to IDOT approval. This work will be paid for from MFT funds.
All right, thank you. If I could get a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderman Stevens, second by Alderman Peterson. Thank you both. Any questions regarding the low bid for the striping? Floor is open. All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if there's any opposed, same sign. Or any abstention? Motion passed, thank you. And under executive session to discuss item H.
G.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. I'm not trying to hurry. Item G, intersection review, thank you. Item G, intersection review regarding Willow Street and Douglas Street. In your packet was a memo from Director Keck regarding that intersection. Director?
Thank you, Mayor. Per the attached memo, after review of the above intersection, I would offer the following. The current status of the intersection is unmarked. Based on IDOT's current traffic volume map, Willow Street and Douglas Street have an ADT of 200 or less. The police department records indicate no accidents at this intersection in the last 5 years. The intersection is located in a residential neighborhood with typical pedestrian activity. There were no site distance limitations noted. And then in conclusion, based off of the above information and IDOT's MUTCD, the manual on uniform traffic control devices, no changes are needed at this intersection at this time. However, if the council considers regulating this intersection, I would recommend that traffic on Douglas Street yield to traffic on Willow Street.
Excuse me, I gotta use mic too, I guess. All right, so based upon the conclusion, is there any motion anybody would like to make? Feel free, or questions? Alderman Brereton.
Thank you again, Your Honor. So I was the one who originally took this request for an intersection review, even though I am not the alderperson in that ward because it's Ward 3. And I want to thank you, Mayor and Director Keck. I was not expecting this to be on the agenda so quickly. I thought might give it some time, but thank you, appreciate that. But again, so it's not my ward, so I didn't know if, the alder people in that ward got a chance to look at the intersection, have an opinion on that. Maybe there's an opinion there. Or Chief Woody, that's where I'm at right now. I didn't know if anybody got a chance to look at it.
Okay. Alderwoman Frank?
I go in that direction quite a bit. Douglas is more of a narrower, it almost dead ends into Willow, so I would think that's where people would stop. And then Willow is a wider street, a somewhat wider street, so I'm very familiar with it. But
Okay. Alderwoman Gramkowski?
Thank you. I drove through the intersection too, and I agree there needs to be some signage on one of the corners. It's just an open intersection that I could see someone getting hurt really bad.
Okay. So would the council want to recommend the traffic on Douglas Street yield to traffic on Willow Street based upon the comments made here? Is that, or what's the pleasure?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor then, in a second.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any questions, any comments regarding the motion? Floor is open, feel free. Alderman Burt?
Your Honor, again, thank you. Just to clarify, they specifically asked for a yield sign opposed to a stop sign, so maybe we have some better luck there, I don't know.
They asked for a yield sign, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the motion on the floor, is my understanding?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Any other comments, any questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposed or any abstentions? Okay, motion passed, thank you. City Attorney Drella?
I think we're going to make a motion for executive session.
Well, no, I actually had a question for the mayor, for Director Keck.
Oh.
I just wanted to get back to what Alderman Montalbano had mentioned a week or two ago about revisiting the stop sign we installed at Fifth Avenue and West Sixth based on constituent complaints. Was there a way to get some further action going or some future council agenda to consider taking that sign out? Give the council's pleasure on that?
That would be up to the council. That would be up to the council's pleasure. I know in the past, we have, as we all know, on Union and Sixth, we put one in and took one out. But I had advocated for that, I guess, but it's up to the council. If you would want to do that, what would be the proper?
You need to put it on a committee agenda first and go through the process.
Yeah.
So it'd have to be, if you can call the mayor or the clerk and ask to be put on committee agenda.
We'll put it on, whatever. And if you want to revisit it, so be it. Yep. Wouldn't be the first time, probably not the last. So, Alderman Montalbano?
Some of the constituents over there didn't even know that that was even about to happen. Does the city
Yeah.
notify them or anything before they put up a sign over there?
The notifications,
I've got quite a few people that don't like the idea that that sign went up there.
Yeah.
And over the years, there's not really been any accidents over there. There's no sidewalks right there and where they put the sign.
Mhm.
And some of the people that are complaining about it said their kids have been going to Washington ever since they were old. They never had any problems with anything.
Mhm.
But they are having problems getting out of their driveways.
Mhm.
And I've been over there 3 times to one person's house, and people are blowing that sign still today. They're blowing through it. So, you know,
as with,
worthwhile really being there.
as with any ordinance that the city adopts, the only notification is the notification of the publication of the agenda and the minutes after a committee meeting and, of course, when it's adopted. And the only exceptions are those issues which require a public hearing, in which case there may be something published in the paper, And the sole exception where you give direct notice to property owners are some zoning matters where certified mailings go out. But if you were gonna try and notify constituents directly by every single action, we'd go bankrupt on postage alone. So they are notified, but it's by on our website and through the agendas.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. So as a point of order, that actually isn't on the agenda.
Correct.
So if you want to bring that forward, then that would be something we would entertain. Alderman Albertini?
Thank you. I did get a call on this, and somebody said that they thought it was a good idea to have them there. The reason being is, you know, since hearing this gentleman speak about it, also they felt that the gentleman who spoke about this, he's causing a problem with people not seeing intersection traffic because he parks up to the end of the street on his driveway, and until you get to that intersection, you cannot see
Okay.
what's going on there.
Okay. Well, let's bring it back. If a council member chooses to bring it back, we'll bring it back. Point of order. Alderman Brereton, make it brief, please.
Thanks. So,
Thank you.
just to clarify, that'd be a motion to reconsider that somebody needs to offer up?
No,
There'd
it
be a
would,
new
it
motion.
would be bring it back and we'll start over.
Very good, thank you
Okay.
again.
Certainly have that right? Okay.
And I apologize to make the meeting longer, if I may, Mayor.
You're out of order.
Okay. Alderman Burton asked a question earlier in the meeting regarding electric aggregation and terms of contracts, and the meeting dragged on for an hour and a half, so I was able to look it up. The electric aggregation statute in combination with section 8-9-4 of the municipal code, even if we were non-home rule, specifically allows long-term energy contracts that even extend past the term of the current office holders. We're home rule, so we didn't even need that, but if we weren't home rule, we'd still be okay.
Very good, thank you again.
Understand. And I'm not wanting to pigeonhole the city and anything on a lengthy agreement that they don't agree with. So when it comes up in 2 years, if the council chooses that they want to take another look at that, so be it. Okay, item H, executive session to discuss collective bargaining matters pursuant to section 2C2. We'll again, we don't have the information that we need to present.
What we're going to for the executive session.
Yeah. Motion to forward, okay. Executive session to discuss collective bargaining matters pursuant to Section 2C2 of the Open Meetings Act and to review executive session minutes pursuant to the Section 2C21 of the Open Meetings Act. So if I could get a motion then to go into executive session for that reason, to review those, thank you. Motion by Alderman Peterson and a second, please. Second by Alderman McGee, thank you both. All those in favor will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay, as the clerk calls the roll to go into executive session.
Albertini?
Aye.
Brereton?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Gramkowski? Moynes?
Aye.
McGee?
Aye.
Montalbano?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Stevens?
Aye.
9 in favor.
All right, so as of 7:44 PM, we voted to go into executive session.
A minute to get us off the air.
We'll get off the air here if anybody needs to take a break.